was wrong. Okay, I got it. Okay. And let's adjust a little bit here. Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Today's the 11th of January. It's 9:09 in the morning. It's 55 degrees, high 63, sunny. We did have rain last night. Lots of thunder, too. Kind of unusual. Dogs don't like the thunder. All right, I'm going to check the live stream. Dogs don't like the thunder. Okay, it looks like we're good. And I'm going to do a couple of fast posts while people come in. And if I talk, I make typos. And it's not going to take long. I don't know how many people will come in today. It's getting hard to predict. I did kind of, I don't know, an unusual live stream, an emergency live stream last night. Well, it was kind of late afternoon. That the America and, well, Israel attacked Yemen in a big attack. We'll cover that. And the U.S. and the U.K. attacked them just before. And I did a video, and I don't know, I got about 250 views, which is, for something like that, extraordinarily low. So they're not showing my live streams, videos, whatever, to that many people anymore. Probably a lot of Satan bots were complaining to them or something, I don't know. We could pray for that to change if you want. I'm not so sure God wants that many people to watch my videos. The channel still grows, but very slowly. And let me just make sure I didn't do any typos. Looks good. Okay. I'm good. And let's do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right. So well, we had so many events. Oh, I got the sun in my eyes and I don't have a hat with a brim. Okay. So what happened? Well, as I'm sure you know, Trump had the sentencing hearing, or it occurred with or without him there. I don't know if he was there or not. I have a feeling he was not there. And they came up with what they said they would: no jail, no probation, no fine, but you're a felon. Trump cannot pardon himself from this because a president cannot pardon a state court conviction. So Trump's trying to appeal it. I think he's already filing appeals. So he's infuriated about this. And he should be, in my book. It doesn't seem like they played straight with him. Remember, if they couldn't rig gambling, they wouldn't do it. If they couldn't rig the courts, they wouldn't have them. You know, that's how they work. All right, so the legal obstacles for Trump being inaugurated, I believe, are all gone. So there's no legal obstacle left that I'm aware of, or that anyone else seems to be aware of, that would stop Trump from being inaugurated. So I think at this point it's a logical assumption that he'll be inaugurated on the 20th of January, barring any insane things happening, like he dies of natural causes, or, you know, America gets attacked massively, or some crazy thing like that happens, which I'm not anticipating at all. I think Trump will be inaugurated. That's the way the view is that I have, okay? So you're going to have Trump as the president. All right. As it looks, you always got to leave a room for some crazy event. We're in end times, but I'm not anticipating anything. So the U.S. and the U.K. did a pretty substantial strike on Yemen yesterday. And right after their strike, Israel sent 20 jets, dropped 50 explosives, and we hit primarily 3 target areas, 2 ports the Houthis were using, and an electrical power generator, you know, the source of electricity. And, you know, it was a sophisticated attack. We had 20 fighter jets, refueling tankers, we had intelligence planes, and everything else going on. Between both attacks, I'm getting some discrepancies. It appears that the combination between the US and UK and Israel was 23 targets. But some people are going as high as 30, so it hasn't come out yet as to how many targets there were. So it's someplace between 23 and 30. After the Shabbat, it'll probably come out what the actual target count was, but it was a significant attack. Last night, the Houthis launched nothing at us, no drones, no missiles. Did the Houthis threaten us? Oh, they threatened us, the UK, America. Listen, Iran has to make threats or their credibility goes down the drain. The Houthis have to make threats so their credibility goes down the drain. And then all the millions of Muslims that have a bend towards this radical terrorism would lose faith and confidence and stop paying attention to the Houthis and Iran. The only thing left of Iran and its proxy caliphate, if you want to call it that, is the Houthis and Iran. And nothing, well, the only way Iran could be attacking Israel again with the missiles is if they have long-range radar to guide the missiles. And I believe we destroyed that some weeks ago, and I don't believe they have them running yet. So their threats, while Israel raised its military alert when Iran made the threats, they weren't activating reservists, they weren't canceling leave. The Home Front Command that gives us information about attacks and what to do and what's expected, you know, did not come up with any warnings. So it was a soft alert. Okay? They maybe didn't know what Iran was going to do, and maybe it was coming from proxies, who knows? Okay? We're still every few days attacking something in Lebanon, which is typically Well, yesterday we did a targeted assassination on a bunch of characters with weapons. I think 5 or 8 got killed. Um, that happens, and also we uncover more ammo dumps and storage facilities of weapons, and we attack that. There's a new president now, as of about a day or two ago in Lebanon, a general of the military, and he seems to be moving the military into South Lebanon, but we're still there with our soldiers, and we're not entirely trusting him, although it's confusing to me that Trump felt this was a good choice, and so did Biden. And the crazy thing is the Houthis have seats in the Lebanon parliament, or the Congress, whatever you want to call it. And the Houthi leader endorsed this guy. So that tells me something's wrong with this picture. Now, the thought was, well, I think based on a statement, the Houthi political leader said, I'm going to endorse him, so, basically we could have a president. But it's very weird that that would happen. And Israel has no intentions of completely leaving the south of Lebanon, probably for years, is what I think the statement was. Okay, no, Chief, it's not time for that. It's time to just hang loose, mongoose. So, no. So that's what, he'll calm down. So, Lebanon is not really attacking Israel. They tried doing something a couple of days ago and it didn't work out. That was the first time in weeks. They're not attacking. Hamas has been sporadically as of late. They must have been making new rockets someplace in Gaza. And they tried attacking for several days running South Israel, but it stopped. They didn't get anywhere. So we're not getting any threats from Gaza. We're not getting any threats from Lebanon. Iraq is not doing anything against us. Syria is not doing anything against us. Turkey is not. Egypt is not. Jordan is not. Saudi is not. UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait is not. The only ones that were attacking us in reality were the Houthis. And I have a strong suspicion what happened last night deactivated their ability to launch missiles. Drones is another story, but we may have disabled that to some extent. So I have a feeling that the Houthis are deactivated. If they were not deactivated in the strike last evening, I think there'll be another strike or two, and they will be. But it looks like they were deactivated. That's what I'm sensing, okay? Iran is basically deactivated, although they're talking like they're not, okay? So I think we possibly have crossed the line to a time period where we're not going to be receiving any more attacks by missile and drone. Now, maybe not. Okay, I can't give you a guarantee, but it looks like that. The Houthis may bounce back 1 or 2 more times, in which case we'll smack them down again and again. Okay? The Iranians, I think, are going to get hit with when Trump's inaugurated. I think it'll come in the form of aerial attacks, minimally by Israel, but we don't have the bunker buster capability with our jets to attack the underground nuke facilities that Iran has, which is where Trump is focusing. So America would have to do that, but Israel could soften them up by, if there is any radar or ground defenses that could do anything, take that out. Now, I tell you the truth, knocking out the Iranian nuke facilities is going to do nothing to deactivate Iran. It's a public relations blow more than it is anything else. Iran will lose credibility with their supporters in Islam. Now, they'll rapidly forget about Iran. What really needs to happen as a minimal is you have to hit their missile bases, their missile factories, drone bases, drone factories, weapons storehouses, their military infrastructure, and the ports where they ship the oil against the sanctions should be destroyed. Will this all happen? I don't think it'll happen at once. I think the nuke facilities will get it first in an isolated attack, limiting the nuke facilities. Iran will then open up a big mouth with threats, targeted assassinations on Trump on down the line, and then there might be more attacks. Israel may want to do more attacks, and Trump may pull the leash tight on us, because we're just an American proxy. You got to realize that right now. Or let us go. So I'm watching that. When you hit the nukes, they're going to get mad and want to come out of the box fighting. And Trump would realize that, and he may hit other facilities. A big strike like that is going to take over 100 jets, or at least 100 jets. And it's going to go on for some hours with refueling. It's going to be a massive thing. That would put Iran at the bargaining table. Maybe, maybe not. Where I'm going with this is Elijah working in chapter 3 of Malachi. Now, this is not taught in the apostate churches, and that's not my fault, so don't get off on me. Go off on me over this. I'm not the one. I'm teaching it. We're going to get into the LA fires. Okay. I'm going to read you Elijah 3. Now, this is unfulfilled prophecy. This has not yet happened. Anybody that tries to tell you this happened will trip over their own feet. You can't make this happen. It never happened yet. Malachi 3, behold, I will send my messenger, that's Malach, which is the name of the book, messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. Now this is Elijah. John the Baptist had the spirit of Elijah. They asked him if he was Elijah. He said no. If they asked this fellow if he's Elijah, he's going to say yes. In Hebrew, it would say something like, Ani Eliah HaNavi. I am Elijah the prophet. And that's how I see it, for sure. I don't see doubt about that. And let's keep reading. Now, John the Baptist had the spirit of Elijah, and he came to prepare the way for Yeshua when Yeshua was on earth. But this is the preparing the way for Yeshua to return. And before Yeshua returns, what do we read? Whom the heaven must receive until the restitution of all things. Well, obviously, all things aren't restored right now. The whole world's against God. Come on. And Psalm, 110:1, the Lord said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. That hasn't happened yet. So these are some of the things that Elijah's going to be working with the other witness, Apostle John. And they're both in Israel now. And he shall prepare the way before me. And Adonai, that's Lord, but a softer word. You could even call your employer or your landlord Adonai. I've seen people call a lawyer Adonai. So it doesn't, this is the glory God of Israel, which is the angel that the Lord put his name in Exodus, I think it's 20 verse 23. I could read that to you. Most of you are not aware of that. Again, the apostate church don't teach this. No, I think it's it's Exodus 23 verse 20, sorry. Exodus 23 verse 20. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared thee. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions. For my name is in him. The name would be Jehovah. It's in this angel, who would obviously be Michael, the most powerful angel. And he'll be in the temple. And you read about this specifically, you read it in Ezekiel 43. Now, this is the temple made without human hands. And he resides in this temple. He never resided in Herod's temple. He never even went in there. He never went in Zerubbabel's temple. And he went in Solomon's temple briefly to anoint it with the glory cloud, and then he left. This next temple comes down from heaven, and it's not New Jerusalem. And that's foreign to the apostate church, and I'm sorry about that, but I'm not the one ignoring it. If you read, well, we can read it. Ezekiel 37, verse 26. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. Now, Yeshua was literally the peace offering, shalom offering, which is a lamb. The sin offering is a steer. Now, you're not going to have peace with Jehovah unless you got the sins covered up. He did that too. He was many things at the same time, but predominantly a peace offering. That's what the lamb is with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant, which brings to mind everlasting life, with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set. Now, the word for set is the same word as place, natan. So I will place my temple or sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. Jerusalem's the middle. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Well, that's consistent with 2 Maccabees 2, chapter 2, I think it is, where when the Babylonian captivity was coming, they had the actual tabernacle. Jeremiah hid it in Mount Nebo. That's the mountain where Moses saw the land but died, couldn't come in, and put it in a cave and sealed it up. And it also has the incense altar, probably incense too, as a guess, and the Ark of the Covenant as well. That's what it says. So, my tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the Goyim, the heathen, shall know that I, Jehovah, do sanctify, or that word is kadosh, make holy Israel. when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. So it says the heathen know this. Now, if the temple was just built by a bunch of rabbis, do you think the heathen would believe that Israel was made holy by God? You get a bunch of John Deere and Caterpillar equipment and stuff and build a temple, and they're going to believe that God made Israel holy? Of course not. But if the temple came down from heaven and the mountain that it sits on, Mount Zion, miraculously reappeared because it sits on that mountain. They would believe it. Now, that mountain may destroy the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. When that mountain comes up, the land may just come up and it falls away and goes away. That might be one theory for getting rid of it. Could be. I do not think there's going to be the Dome of the Rock, the mountain, or the Dome of the Rock or the Al-Aqsa Mosque in plain sight of the temple. That would not sit well with Jehovah at all. I don't plan on seeing it there. How it gets gone is questionable, but it could be when that mountain comes up. It's going to be quite a high mountain. I don't know how many feet high it is. I would say if I was going to whack a guess at it, it'd probably be at least 4,000 or 5,000 feet high as a minimum, but it may be a lot higher. I don't know. We'll have to wait on that one. The scripture doesn't tell us. So I don't know. Okay, so now we'll go back to Malachi 3 that I'm setting the stage, which is sad that the apostate churches leave all this out, but it'll blow up in their face as events unfold and that people realize they were not taught these things. Behold, I will send my Malach, and he shall prepare the way before me, and Adonai, whom you seek, shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant. Now it's back to Elijah, because the Jewish people were taught that Elijah will teach them Torah, whom you delight in. Well, the Jewish people do things that are not scriptural, as you know. They, on the Passover Seder, Pesach Seder, they set a place setting, I guess is the right English words, for Elijah. They have a chair set for Elijah and silverware and plates, and they pour him a goblet of wine. But it goes further. They actually leave the door open so Elijah could go in. So they're believing that the spirit of Elijah will come in and dine with them on the Passover Seder, millions and millions of them at the same time. They also believe that Elijah attends the circumcision of every Jewish boy. Now, this is fantasy stuff that they made up in the Talmud. That's not true. It's not in the scriptures. But whom you delight in, well, they delight in him. Now, let me show you the chairs, pictures of some of the chairs that they make for Elijah. Because I imagine a lot of you have never seen or heard of anything like this. I'll find some pictures here. They used to be in Google. Let's see if they still are. They may have eliminated them. I don't know. No, I'm not finding them. Give me a minute, I'll try refining the search. Here they are. Here's an elaborate one. I believe his name's on it. Let me get you some more pictures. There's another one. They have all different kinds of them. Now, every Jewish family doesn't have them, but there are a bunch, generally ultra-Orthodox, that do. Get a few more pictures for you. There's another one. Here's another one. I guess you got the idea. So that's the one whom they delight in. Okay? Could it be the glory of God of Israel? Yes, it could be, but I think it's referencing Elijah. They believe, they have a prayer called the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And when they do the Shema, they believe that the glory of God of Israel, who's Michael, will appear. And they also are taught in the Talmud, this is not Bible, that if they look at him, they will die. So when they recite the Shema, they close their eyes. Now, when I was in Hebrew school, I hated going to Hebrew school. I had to go for years. My parents sent me. So I came home from grade school. I lived across the street from the school, so I got home really fast. I came in and I would get usually like classical milk and cookies or something. And I would change out of my school clothes because I'm old, and back then you had to wear leather shoes, pants that were not Levi's or jeans or anything like that, so dress pants, and you had to wear a shirt with a collar and a tie, then have your hair combed and stuff like that. So I'd come home and I would throw off my school clothes and get into sneakers and, you know, Levi's, and probably change my shirt, hit the milk and cookies, and then I had to walk to the synagogue where they had the Hebrew school, as they called it, which was about 3.5 blocks. So it took, you know, so I was in a rush, and I'd go over there, and I think it was 45 minutes or an hour you had to stay there. It was horrible. I didn't like it. They never taught us how to translate Hebrew. They told us how to read it and how to write it. And that was common in a lot of these places. And so I couldn't stand it. I was an excellent student in school, but I hated that place, so I was not a great student. So the rabbi's wife was a very nice lady, and she would try to coach us, you know, tutor us. So she was tutoring me, and I don't know, I was talking to her, and then I just said the Shema, and she started going crazy. No! She really believed that the glory of God of Israel could appear and I would die. So I didn't have my eyes closed, so she told me you should never do that. So some of you probably remember an old TV show in the 60s that I loved called Star Trek with Captain Kirk and Leonard, Leonard Nimoy played Spock, and Dr. Bones and Scotty and all of them, right? It only went for 3 seasons. That show should have went for 15, but it went for 3. A lot of the people didn't like it, but Spock would do this, or he did it like this, or like this, and he would say, live long and prosper. Well, Spock did interviews, and he was raised ultra-Orthodox Jew. Leonard Nimoy was a Jew. And his father made him go through the synagogue indoctrinations, and he does an interview and he said he was in the synagogue and the elders, if you will, whatever they were doing the Shema, and they were doing it with their eyes closed and making the sign. So Leonard Nimoy copied this sign and started using it on the Star Trek TV show. He did an interview and explained it. And he said he was in the synagogue once and they were doing the Shema with the hand sign. None of this is in the Bible. The hand sign's not in the Bible. And he said he opened his eyes and there was nothing there. You know. So I'm trying to give you some kind of background so you can understand the scriptures. Because a lot of you, of course, as a lot of you know, I'm a Kohanim and I grew up in a neighborhood 99.9% Jewish, and you know I have all the background that some of you don't have, I guess. So, okay, so it says, and the Adonai whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. So the temple is there before him. My theory on this, and it's my theory, not a firm scripture, but I think it lends itself to scripture. I'll bring that up as we progress the next 2 or 3 verses. Okay, behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of hosts. Now, you could say that means Elijah, or it means the glory of God of Israel. It's not specific. Probably Elijah. But who may abide the day of his coming? Now, the word for coming here in Hebrew is bo, which means come. And it says yom bo. It's reasonably well translated. Hebrew doesn't go into English very well. It means day come. The day he comes, right? And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, the Levites, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old, as in the former years. Now, that means the blessings of the law come on us. Well, some of you have been taught that the law is dead and done away with. Well, remember, you're the temple of the Holy Spirit, not the temple of the glory God of Israel. And nobody's putting an altar at your feet and doing sacrifices. But, you know, it's sad the apostate churches don't teach this, but I want to teach it what Yeshua said about the law. Matthew 5:17, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy but to fulfill. You see, that's where they stop reading. And then they tell the people, well, he fulfilled the law, so there is no more law. And they tell you, Paul taught that. Well, Paul said without the law there'd be no sin. It's in your own Bible. But let's read the next verse, Matthew 5:18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Has all been fulfilled? Whom the heaven must receive till the restitution of all things. That hasn't happened. Psalm 110:1, the Lord said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. That hasn't been fulfilled. Whosoever therefore should, now this is verse 19 in Malachi 5, whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Well, it's not done away with according to Yeshua, but they teach it, and sadly, people believe it. I am not responsible for that. I just read you the scriptures. Did Yeshua change the law? Sure, he changed the law. The law changes. The Kohen Gadol office is done away with. When you read Ezekiel 40 to 48, you'll learn about the temple if you care to read it. And we see in the next temple, there's what's called an anointed prince. And that's to fulfill the scripture, David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne. Now, this temple precedes Yeshua returning to earth, so we have someone from the line of David as the anointed prince in the temple with the glory of God of Israel. Of course, when Yeshua returns, the anointed prince office is done away with, because he also is from the line of David, and him and the glory of God of Israel are both sitting in New Jerusalem. If you care to read your Bible in Revelation 21, they're both there, both of them. There's a lot more in prophecy than Ezekiel 38, 39 and the return of Yeshua. That's incorrect, it's just out of time, out of sequence, it's superficial, and that's what they teach because it's easy to understand. So, when Elijah is training and teaching the Levites, does it make sense, I ask you, that this should be going on while missiles, drones, rockets are coming in? I think not, because that would be ridiculing God and mocking God. I don't see that. I thought about it for a while and we talked about it, but I don't think that would happen. So what I'm telling you we're headed towards, as I'm seeing prophecy unfold, is the ceasefires in Gaza, Lebanon, deactivating the Houthis. Maybe we have to deactivate Iraq yet, but they're just playing dead. They're not doing anything. And Iran's got to get shut down some. There's no more attacks on Israel, but the population of the terrorists in Gaza and in Lebanon, and I think Yemen's going to get wiped out. I don't think there are going to be any left there, but maybe there are, okay? But I don't think so. It's going to be a devastation. It's Edom. In Jeremiah 49, it gets destroyed forever. And Iran is going to probably get hit too. Then we see Elijah working. Possibly initially he's working with just the tabernacle, although I think the tabernacle is going to be used in the wilderness. And why do I think it'll be used in the wilderness? Because I'm going to read to you some aspects of the next great exodus to Israel, and you'll understand it plain as day. And it's not hard. We just go to Ezekiel chapter 20. And this too has never been fulfilled. You can't make a case for this to have been fulfilled already. It's absurd. We start in Ezekiel verse 20 in chapter 33. As I live, saith Jehovah, saith Adonai Jehovah, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. fury poured out, ruling over Israel. And I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the Eretz, the lands wherein you are scattered, the diaspora, the dispersion of the Jews amongst the world, with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out. So this is gathering us into the barn. The barn is Israel, or gathering us into the sheep gate, and Yeshua's the door to get in the sheep gate. Okay? Now, when we look at the timing of this, we have to deal with some very hard to believe scriptures, but I've got to show them to you. Will gather you out of the lands wherein I have scattered you. Now, let's go to Jeremiah 30, verse 11, which talks about the next great exodus and the birth of the nations in a day, and Jacob's trouble, which is Zechariah 12. It says, great is Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Gog and Magog, it's not exactly everybody getting saved out of it, but in your Zechariah 12, the Israelites there, not one of them gets injured or killed. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee. The word would really be Yasha, to salvation thee. That's the root of Yeshua's name, which is probably construed to mean something like giver of salvation. To save thee, though I make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. He's going to destroy all the nations. He says a full end. The word there is used as Strong's number 3617, Kala. It could be in a complete termination. Complete destruction. It's a complete end of the countries. Not everybody's going to be destroyed in these countries, but the lands are going to be destroyed because of the way they treated the Israelites. Where do we see this? Well, you got to go to, I think it's Zechariah 1 or 2. I'll find it for you. We pick it up in Zechariah 1:14. So the angel that communed with me, being Zechariah, said unto me, cry thou, saying, thus saith Jehovah of armies, I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion with a great jealousy. That means he wants us back. And I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased. I was but a little displeased, but they helped forward the affliction. See, God turned us over to our enemies for 2,000 years. I'll show you that in a minute. And the heathen went after us with great vengeance, but God couldn't go back once he stated the 2,000 years punishment. He had to let it happen, but they pushed it pretty far. We got run out of countries, our goods stolen, we got killed, we got persecuted, everything. Hitler, Stalin, everything. All right, so where do you find the 2,000-year punishment on Israel? Again, sadly, the apostate churches don't teach this. I wish they did. It's found in Hosea chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. Come and let us return unto Jehovah. That's obviously not the church. They can't sell that one to you because it means they were away from God, so they couldn't be the church. So, come and let us return unto Jehovah, for he hath torn, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days, now 1,000 years is like a day unto the Lord. Peter taught us that. So this punishment, it goes on for 2 days, but it's 2,000 years is what it means. It's not a 48-hour punishment, obviously. So after 2,000 years will he revive us, bring us to life. The 3rd day, that's your millennium, he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. Well, sure, you're living in Jerusalem, and he's there. And you could see him, and he could see you. You could probably talk to him and stuff like that, with respect, I'm sure. So, I don't think you could just, run up and barge in on him. That wouldn't be cordial or showing respect. But anyway, we'll learn about those things when the time comes. So, the 2,000-year punishment probably started around 70 AD, and it looks like time's up. But if he said 70-year captivity in Babylon, it means 70 years, right on the money. But when he says 2 days, I would interpret this to be approximately 2,000 years. So nobody could actually predict the actual year. But I think time's up. Okay? Let me run into the live stream and see if we got any nasty people in there that are putting bad things up. Well, there's a word in Hebrew called takanot, which means in English tradition, an old movie, Fiddler on the Roof, tradition. It's a funny movie, but not exactly biblically correct, but tradition. You see in the movie they clean the house before Shabbat. I never found a scripture that says you got to clean your house before Shabbat. There's another tradition where they cook a big meal before Shabbat, and then they put it down on the table before Shabbat begins. And then they sit there and eat a big meal on Shabbat. Now, I think that's a nice practice. Because what happens? Well, you get full, and then the next day, you can have my wife put out egg salad, tuna salad, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, if you like that stuff. I like it, but it's not good for you. But do I like it? Oh, yeah. Cream cheese and jelly. Oh, yeah, that's good too. But it's not so great for you. Or you could put out, have cold cuts and sandwiches or cereal, which is generally not good food. fruit, nuts, The idea is the missus of the house gets to rest and not cook. Okay? But prepping before Shabbat starts, a big Shabbat meal, and celebrating Shabbat with that meal is a good thing. But when the meal's over, either you use disposable dishes and just throw them in a garbage liner. That wouldn't be exactly work on Shabbat. Or you can leave your, serious real dishes, your pottery stuff out there if you want, and then after Shabbat, clean the table. Well, you don't want to put the wife through cleaning up either. And a lot of people do it and they just leave the food out and then eat the food. Of course, if it's 98 degrees outside and you leave the food out, well, it may not be in such great shape the next day. You got to be careful about that. Could you take the unused food and stick it in the fridge? Sure you could. That's not really work. But washing the dishes and cleaning up, and that would be work, and I think you should refrain from that. Now, certain things have to happen on Shabbat. Your animals have a Shabbat. If they're work animals or pet animals. So if you don't feed them or give them water, what kind of Shabbat do they have? It's a miserable day for them. So you don't do that. You got to feed and water them. Just like you got to feed and change diapers on little kids, infants, toddlers, you got to have a balance here, or they don't have a Shabbat. Walk around without food or not eating or having a dirty diaper all Shabbat. That's not Shabbat for them. But what would be some things that would be bad, I guess? Mowing the lawn would be a bad idea. Washing the car. If you had a swimming pool, would going in the swimming pool, would your kids be evil? Not at all. Go in the swimming pool. It's restful. It's peaceful. If you're going to work laps in the pool to get a workout, no. Going to the gym on Shabbat, even if you have a home gym, no, that's working out. That's not Shabbat. That's not resting. If you had a jacuzzi or a sauna using that, would that work? Sure, that's pretty restful stuff, don't you think? Sitting in a jacuzzi requires how much work or effort? You pump yourself down and that's it. Same with sitting in a sauna or a steam room if you happen to have any of those. I don't have any of them. I wish I did, but I don't. You're not supposed to kindle a fire on Shabbat, and I think that means get a fire started, But I think they probably collected the wood and had the fire going before Shabbat, and then they just toss wood on the fire. Otherwise, the temperatures in Jerusalem get cold. I've seen waist deep snow there. I've been in it. So what are you going to do with little kids and stuff like that if it's 30 degrees outside and you're not going to have any heat? Let them freeze up or put them under 6 blankets for Shabbat, some Shabbat. You see what I'm saying? But you're not supposed to start the fire. If you got the fire going and you just keep feeding wood to it, I think that's what it means. Okay? Putting on a light, no, that's not kindling a fire. That's stupid thinking, okay? The Israelis have what's called the Shabbat elevator. This is a very true story I'm going to tell you. And it's not just a few random Shabbat elevators. They're profound and extremely abundant in Israel and even around the world. And I'll explain to you what it is. The elevator is programmed on Friday to stop at every floor. So if you're on floor 5 and you want to go down to the lobby, your elevator, you just walk in your elevator and you stand there. The buttons are disconnected and then it stops on floor 4, floor 3, floor 2, floor 1. People might get in or get off. And on floor 1, you walk out. So they're teaching when you push the button in the elevator, it creates a spark with the electric current, and that's kindling a fire. That's pretty silly. What's being combusted in this fire? Nothing. It's silly. Would turning on your gas stove with a flame be kindling a fire? If it's off and then you turn it on. I don't. I mean, if it bothers you, what you do, what we have is an electric stove, so there's no fire. Microwaves have no fire. Ovens got those coils that heat with electricity. An electric oven, it's got no fire. You know. What the Orthodox do, I don't think turning on a gas stove is kindling a fire, but it does meet the test of kindling a fire. So some people might not want to do it. You know, it's not work to go like that and turn the dial, but okay, it bothers you, don't do it. But it's not like going out and picking up firewood and trying to get a big wood fire started. That's a job. Not going like that with a dial. But they have Shabbat refrigerators. Now, this is true, and that's pretty much all they sell in Israel is Shabbat refrigerators. So the Shabbat elevator is common. Hotels have them, apartments where the Orthodox live, ultra-Orthodox. Because it's based on silliness, in my opinion. Now, we go to the refrigerators. So what a Shabbat refrigerator does, you got a switch, you can turn it on and off. We keep our Shabbat control turned off all the time, so we don't have it. On Shabbat, what it does is it sets your refrigerator to one speed or one temperature, which is very low. And the motor stays on all the time for 24 hours. So when you open the door on a regular refrigerator, the motor kicks in. So when you open the door, you're causing a spark of electricity for turning on the motor. And they say you're kindling a fire, which is absurd to me. So what they do is they make this Shabbat refrigerator, which has a low power that goes all 24 hours. And also the light turns on when you open your refrigerator door. So what they do on the Shabbat refrigerator is it kills the light for 24 hours, so the light is not on and it doesn't go on. They also don't turn lights on Shabbat because they're putting this, you flip the switch, you're creating electrical spark and you're supposedly kindling a fire. How that works, I don't follow it at all. I don't think it's relevant, but they do. So what they do is they create timers. This is the absurdity of this, right? Timers. So they have lights on a timer. So they time the light to go on, let's say this time of year, 6:30 in the morning. So the light stays on Friday night till, let's say, 10:30, and then it turns off, and then it turns on again in the morning at 6:30. And it just stays on, because then when Shabbat's over, you could just shut it manually or whatever, right? So they do stuff like that, and that's just silly. A lot of the men wear shoes that I think you would call them slides. They don't have a back, so they just slide their foot into the shoe so they don't have to tie the shoelaces on Shabbat. You see, they'll do all these things and go out and be mean and ugly to their fellow Israelis and sue them and lie and cheat and steal and unequal weights and measures and backbiting and oh my God. And then they do all this nonsense. It's nuts. They tend to not use the television or the phone on Shabbat because I think if you get a phone call, it's creating a spark in your phone. So they cancel their phones Friday before Shabbat and turn them on after Shabbat. What else? They don't use cars because when you crank the car, you're creating spark and, combusting the fire. Now, I don't think you should be using your car on Shabbat because in one of the places in the scriptures it says you should stay in your own place. It doesn't say house, place. And that, when you learn how it works in Israel, it sounds, it's a little town or a village. I live in a village, not everybody lives in a big city. It's stay in your own place, in your own town or village. The synagogues are usually positioned so people in the village or the town don't have to walk more than a third of a mile to get to synagogue. Now, as believers, we don't go to the synagogue, but I think the synagogues will be converted into correct Old New Testament synagogues run by Levites when redemption comes, and we'll be using them, and people will go there and meet. And the 1/3 of a mile is not a precept laid forth for us in the scriptures. It's what they teach. In the scriptures we read that that the apostle would walk a Shabbat's walk to the synagogue, which is about a 1/3 of a mile or less. I couldn't tell you it's a precise 1/3 of a mile, but I've checked with ultra-Orthodox. It's about a 1/3 of a mile. So a 1/3 of a mile is 6 or 7 blocks or 6.5 blocks. It's a considerable distance. So if you have a synagogue and you can go, let's say, 6.5 blocks in every direction, you're going to cover a reasonable portion of that village. And they might, in some cases, put 2 or 3 synagogues in that location. The village I'm in, it perhaps has 3,500 people, and I think it's running. There are 2 synagogues here. One is way more populated than the other. Tiberias has 40,000 people, and I don't know how many synagogues, probably 15, 25, I don't know, quite a few. They took old bomb shelters that were underground and they made them into synagogues. The bomb shelter has sort of like a roof over ground, and it has those spinning air vents, and then you would enter by staircase going in, and they have air conditioners and different things today. So you got to watch it with them in the Takano, the tradition, because it's not scriptural. So they make a big thing with the fires, Also with our hot water heaters, in the warmer weather when it's sunny, all the houses have a solar water heater, every house in Israel. For the 7 or 8 months a year when it's sufficient to use just the solar, it saves a tremendous amount of electricity in Israel, a massive amount. I mean, some people, if it's 98 degrees outside, they want to take a cold shower. I have done that in the past. Usually, if there's no power, I haven't done it in decades, but I was living in Tiberias 35 years ago, and power was out, and it was very hot, over 100. So I went into the shower and I fired it up with cold water, and I stood under it for as long as I could take it, as cold as I could take it. And when I got out, my skin temperature was cold really. And I lowered my core temperature some, and I found that it lasted for about 4 hours, 3-4 hours, and then I went and did it again, and it got me through the rest of the day when the until the temperature went down, you know. And I don't know what happened. Maybe the power was still on that day, and it was so hot. I'm thinking that it was like 105 or something. And we didn't have air conditioning back then. Very few people did. We had fans, and we'd sit in front of the fans, and that helps, but it doesn't cut it all the way, you know. Air conditioners back then were $2,500, I think, something like that. And that's for a room air conditioner, not central. And some people had them, but there was like maybe 10%, 15% of people had them. It was a real luxury to have one. Now we've got air conditioners in, I think, just about every room in my house. I don't have one in my room because I don't like it getting cold. I don't enjoy, you know, people like turn the air conditioner on and put a blanket on and sleep. I don't like that. So I like the fans. And when I grew up in the Bronx, I had no air conditioning in my room. And I had a fan, and that's what I slept in front of. So as a kid, I was used to it. And so I don't enjoy that. So there's an air conditioner in the big room outside my room, and I put a fan in the doorway, and I bring the cold air in as needed, and that I find is a good compromise for me. Now we got a wood burning stove in that same room, and my wife likes to fire it up, and it gets so hot, even in my room, man, it gets really hot, you know. too hot even, you know. So when I go to take a shower in the summer, usually I don't want to get in the shower and go, ooh, that's cold, you know. I go for, you know, room temperature or a little above. I don't have a hot shower, but I get it a little so it's nice and comfortable. So the solar works well on that. But in the winter, well, let's say when it's less than 60 degrees outside and it's not that sunny, your solar is going to get the room, the water, where it's not going to be ice cold. It'll be maybe almost room temperature, but not quite. So you want to run your hot water heater at the same time. So in the cold weather, it's nice to go in there and have a nice hot shower, steam up the bathroom. At least I like it, you know. So I like to use the solar. So for a few months, the electric. So they don't want to turn the electric on, so they have timers. So they set the timer so that every day the hot water heater, depending on the size of the family and, you know, that kind of thing, would go on maybe at 8 in the morning or something, and then go on again at 2 in the afternoon, or, you know, something like that, however they set it. So they have the hot water through the day. And we had one of those heaters here that was what they call the kosher timer. And I had to have a guy change it. It drove me nuts. It didn't go on when it was supposed to. It just drove me nuts. Now I got one, you just turn it, you want it on for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour and a half. You just set it, and it works for me much better. But they won't use that because they think you're creating a spark. Now this is where we get funny. On our property, we have solar lights by pathways. So and they have a detector of movement. So if cats or hedgehogs or some other critters come in, the light turns on and supposedly spooks them. You know. I think the cats get used to it, but it doesn't. They don't like staying. They're walking around in the night stealthy, and then the light comes on. They're not happy about that. All right. So what happens when you have those on the main walkway? So you have the house on the main thoroughfare, and ultra-Orthodox walk down that street on the Shabbat to go to the synagogue, maybe, right? Or return from the synagogue. So when they walk by your house, you have these solar things on. and their movement activates the light, and the light comes on. So they learn where these houses are, and they cross the street to not walk in front of them because they're kindling a fire in their logic, which is flawed. By walking in front of it, you turn it on. So you can provoke them, make them nuts by doing this, I've been in an elevator with my wife, and they ultra-Orthodox walk in the elevator, see my wife, and jump out of the elevator. They're afraid to touch her. She might be unclean. If you go to the ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, and you're a woman and you're not dressed like an ultra-Orthodox woman or even an Orthodox woman, they won't walk near you. Men, they're not that worried about. They're taught not to mix dairy and meat, dairy and Fleischik, because you're not supposed to boil the baby in the mother's milk. I can't dwell on that. It's so disgusting. I can't even think anybody would do that, but historically they did. So they have a concept which is not in the Bible called building a wall around the Torah. So to prevent you from breaking the Torah, they make extra commands, if you will, that you shouldn't break. So they say to stop you from boiling a baby animal in the mother's milk, to cook it that way, which is disgusting. They won't mix meat and dairy. So for a restaurant to be kosher in Israel, they have rabbinical. Now, kosher is not a term that the whole concept of kosher is to make money for the rabbis. There's nothing in the Bible of that, man. You got clean and unclean food. They kosher water. How could you have unclean water, for crying out loud? I mean, come on. They have Mehedrin fruit and vegetables. There is no unclean fruit and vegetable. Yet Mehedrin means that the animal might have microscopic bugs in it, which could be construed as unclean food. So you spend a lot of money and they're giving you these Mehedrin foods that don't have microscopic bugs in it, which is nonsense. Of course they do. They have another form of extra kosher food called Glat kosher, G-L-A-T-T. Glat kosher meat is raised on a property where no unclean animals can go. So tell me, how do they keep flies off the animals? I don't think you can. How do they keep birds out of the property? I don't think you can. Unclean birds. It's just nonsense. It runs the food prices up about 35% in Israel. We buy food from Arab markets, and we get chicken, beef, lamb. We don't eat much turkey, really. Years ago it was real popular in Israel, but we normally don't eat turkey. That's how it is. We eat a lot of beef. We eat a good amount of chicken. And occasionally lamb, but that's really it for our meat repertoire. Fish is typically tuna and salmon, sometimes tilapia. That's about it on the fish parade. I get salmon eggs. They're very inexpensive in Israel. I mean, to call it caviar is a push, but they're kind of tasty, and I like them. Put them on pizza one time, but don't cook them on the pizza because they'll go yucko. Put them on your pizza afterwards. They're pretty interesting. I've thrown them in pita bread, and I like them. Okay, so I like them. So what? So that's pretty much what we eat in terms of meat. once in a great while we'll have Cornish game hen or quail or duck. Duck is kind of gamey and greasy. I'm not a big fan. Um, that's really it. We occasionally make sushi. My wife took sushi classes years ago, and typically our sushi is going to be salmon on the sushi rice, and we'll put some vegetable stuff on the rice with it. That's not a big mainstay around the house, but we do it. And then we'll make pizza. So we put cheese on the pizza and we put meat on it. Now you can't call a kosher pizza store and say, I want to get a cheese pizza with extra cheese and I want mushrooms and olives. Olives are pretty cool on pizza, by the way, but don't get pitted olives. You're asking for trouble because what's going to happen? You're going to hit the pit with your tooth. Not a good idea. So if the olives are going to have the pit in it on a pizza, take a pass. You don't want to go down that road. You can hurt your teeth. All right. And then, what else can you could ask for chicken or beef on the pizza, but they won't put it on in Israel because then they're not kosher and the rabbis cancel their kashrut, their kosher certificate. So what they do is they put tuna on the pizza, and I want to tell you that's disgusting. I mean, if they want to eat tuna on pizza, fine with me, but personally I think it's vile. The oven bakes that tuna and it stinks and it's dry and oh my gosh. I had it once at a Pizza Hut, I think it was, one time. I never did it again. Oh no, that's not for me. I'm not talking any biblical stuff here. I'm talking about disgusting. That's it. So they'll put anything on your pizza, but they put kernels of corn on the pizza. That's all right. I mean, it's unusual for an American or a European, but it's all right. Generally, I'll go olives and mushrooms. But we make our own pizzas. Sometimes we take a frozen pizza and we take various kinds of sandwich meat and put it on the pizza. Sometimes we add extra cheese onto the pizza. Like I've put Roquefort on there, Gouda, Swiss, and I put meat on it. There's no reason why you can't do that. You're not eating the blood in it or strangled meat or anything like that. You can have it if you want. But the pizza stores, if they're not kosher, they'll dry up and they won't do it. Now, there are in the big cities, there'll be non-kosher restaurants that will do things like this, but we don't live in Tel Aviv or anything like that. Netanya probably has some in Haifa and different places. A lot of Russian Jews live in Israel, and they don't maintain kosher. They eat a lot of pork and stuff like that. All right, let me check the chat and see if there's anything going on here. Is it farm raised salmon? We try to stay away from that. Um, I don't know about some of the salmon we get. We get some that's flash frozen from the oceans in other countries, and I get herring that comes from, I think, Norway, that I don't think is farm raised. We try to avoid it, but sometimes we don't know. Tuna, yeah, tuna is pretty okay. If you're led to fast and pray, that's up to you. You know, it's definitely biblical. That's for sure. Um, so I'm trying to give you the ins and outs of what they do in Israel. They put ketchup on the pizza. Now, calm down. To an American and probably a European, this is in the realm of stupid. Okay, but it's not breaking any scripture. If you want to put ketchup on your pizza, go ahead. I have tried it a few times. It's all right. It's not as bad as putting tuna. The putting tuna on your pizza is simply vile. I mean, it's horrible. Some of the things we do is we go to the Arab butchers and they cut beef for us into strips like bacon, um, and we cook it like bacon, but it's beef. And we also do the same thing with lamb. Now, lamb's expensive, but the lamb bacon is really tasty. The beef stuff's not bad, but the lamb stuff is good. Now, pickles can be good in Israel. They have large variety of pickles. They're usually all quite good. Olives, they got so many different kinds. Well, you basically got a green olive, a black olive, and a purplish olive. I like them all. They all have a different taste to them. You can get your olives where they pit them and they put garlic inside there where the pit was. Do I like that? Personally, yes, it's from a garlic clove. I do like it. Does that mean you're going to like it? No, you might think it's horrible, but this is personal preference. Do I want to wear brown shoes or black shoes? There's no biblical concept as to what color shoes you want to wear. So they also take the olives and pit them and they put cayenne pepper in there. Do I like that too? I do, but it depends how hot the cayenne pepper is. If you put it in there and you're eating the olive and you're what's the point of doing that to yourself? You're not tasting the food and it's painful and gagging. If it's mild hot pepper, and also you can get both the garlic and that together, that's pretty good. You could also take your olives. We have a huge olive tree here, and there's orchards next door. We get our own olives, which are essentially organic, I would say. And you put them in a jar, and you could put olive oil in the jar with them and preserve them. And what you could also do is take garlic cloves and throw them in the jar, right? Why not? And you could also throw cayenne pepper in the jar. Leave it sit for as long as you want to let it sit, and now you're going to have garlic flavored or cayenne flavored olives. Do I like that? Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Is there any biblical prohibition against that? Of course not. Nothing. You know. Now, when you go to restaurants that are kosher certified by the rabbinical people, you find there's two categories of restaurants. There's a meat or fleishik restaurant and there's a dairy restaurant. Now, the dairy restaurant can serve eggs, which if you talk to a vegan, or I guess they're going to tell you that's meat, but anyway, they could serve eggs and they could serve fish. And with that, you're going to find a lot of salad type things, okay? But you could get yourself an omelet with olives and, apricots or celery or whatever, I don't know. They don't put apricots in omelets, but okay, and you could You get yourself a fillet of salmon or tuna, or you could get pieces of salmon that are breaded and fried. It's not healthy, but it tastes pretty good, you know. Okay, stuff like that. So when you go to a dairy restaurant and you drink coffee like I do, and you want to put milk and cream in your coffee, you're out of luck because that's dairy. And we're back to building a wall so you don't burn the baby animal and you don't cook it in the mother's milk. So you have to get a non-dairy creamer for your coffee. It's rather stupid. I don't know what they do about butter. I can't remember. You might have to get a margarine instead. I don't know. Then you have Chinese restaurants that are kosher. And this gets interesting because they don't really do anything with dairy. So you get noodles and you could get chicken or beef. What else can you get? You can get fish. Usually it's salmon. But they don't usually do turkey. It's not popular. Trying to think there's a third thing they offer, but I just think so. I might order noodles, a noodle dish which will have vegetables in it with beef, and I'll have pieces of beef, or I might order a noodle dish with pieces of chicken. The egg rolls are typically knocked off vegetable egg rolls, so they don't put meat in the egg rolls, but some places have quite tasty egg rolls. Some places they're a waste of time. So it's really, I think, chicken, beef, and salmon. Tuna might pop up rarely on the menu. Um, the noodles, I think, are predominantly going to be rice noodles. Um, and they'll have all kinds of vegetables that they put in there. The problem with the Chinese food here is it's not Chinese food as you know it in Europe or America or South America or Central America or Canada or Alaska or Hawaii. Or, what you're getting here is ultra sweet Chinese food, which they put sweet sauces on it, and I don't care for it. They don't have authentic. You don't get brown fried rice. You get with the fried rice is usually white with a very slight hint of brown on it. So that's a loss. The egg rolls, the vegetable egg rolls, that they got fine. Wonton soup, they got delicious wonton soup some places, and the wonton would typically be chicken, usually. It's pretty good at places. They have various Chinese salad dishes. They're pretty good. Um, they got a lot of Thai food. The Chinese restaurants sell Thai food of different kinds. But again, it tends to be sweet. Some of them have hot sauce versions that are sweet with a hot sauce. And I don't eat it very often. Like I probably haven't had it in 2 or 3 months or more or something like that. It's all right, but it's not. It's not conducive. I mean, it's not Chinese food really. It's something else. But it's kind of okay. Um, they have sushi here, and some sushi is actually good. You're basically going to have sushi with tuna, salmon, or I don't. That's it. I think you got tuna, salmon, or all vegetables. Maybe they have a whitefish or something. Uh, so I guess the kosher sushi places are running as a dairy restaurant. I don't know. But I've had good sushi. Um, McDonald's here is the barf from. They got two flavors, kosher and non-kosher, and I've tried them both, and they were a waste of money. They're really not good. They're just not. Um, Pizza Hut is mediocre at best. Kentucky Fried Chicken, okay, there's a problem with this. They got them here, but they're not allowed to use some sort of milk or cream in the breading like they do in America because that's violating the kosher by mixing the dairy with the meat. So they have a different breading and it detracts from the Kentucky Fried Chicken taste quite noticeably. Is it still pleasant to eat? It's not healthy to eat, but it's pleasant enough. It's just not as good as it is in America. It's not real tasty. It just isn't. It detracts from it. Now they're supposed to have non-kosher Kentucky Fried Chicken in some places that might have the actual breading where they put the milk in the breading, and I have not had that. Burger King is in Israel. It's supposed to be good and kosher and stuff, but I've never had it. There is a hamburger place near us that has, it's not a kosher restaurant, but it's an all beef hamburger and it's delicious. It's fantastic. They also make Philly cheesesteak sandwiches. It's just extremely overpriced. It's not worth it. I mean, it's excessively priced, but the Philly cheesesteak sandwich is pretty good. Um, they got hamburgers where they put the cheese inside the burger, um, but it's just way too much money to eat hamburgers. It's a ridiculous amount of money to eat. It's not worth it. I don't think we've done that in 2 or 3 months. Once in a blue moon, when my wife is some reason can't cook, she doesn't feel good or something like that, we'll order some hamburgers and then we probably won't do it for 1 or 2 or 3 months. It's just too much money. I haven't ordered a pizza probably in 6 months, but there is a local pizza guy that makes perfect Sicilian pizza, thin crust. I do order it with extra cheese because I don't think he puts enough cheese on it. His sauces are really good. And sometimes I'll order it plain or I'll ask him for olives and mushrooms. And then sometimes I'll put my own meat on it, like sandwich meat, or generally just eat it the way it comes. And he just delivers extra large. So my wife doesn't eat that amount of carbs. So if I eat it, I'll have 3 pieces, if not 4. And that's too much because it tastes too good. And then I take the rest and wrap it in aluminum, put it in the freezer, and then reheat it. And it's cheap enough. It's not very expensive. But I just do that if we got company and they want pizza. Then I'll order it. And then, but other than that, it makes me want to eat too much pizza, and I don't want to eat all that carb load, you know. So what else can I tell you about this? Yogurts, you go to the supermarket in Israel, you got 80 different kinds of yogurts. You like yogurt, yogurt heaven here. Cheese, again, like 80 different kinds of cheeses. I mean, they got cheeses, man, and most of them are pretty darn good. Okay? Tons of cheese. Um, Breads, lots of breads. Most of them stink. I've acquired a taste for pita bread, which is a low glycemic index bread, and it, you might find it an acquired taste, but it's not bad. You can get rye bread, you can get wheat bread, you can get 10 grain bread, you can get lots of breads. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of breads, but the vast majority of them are made with crappy ingredients that are not healthy for you. You can find healthy breads here, though. They do carry it. Cookies, candies, cakes, pastries, loads of that, but it's not that great for you. Nuts, every crazy kind of NUT in the world, macadamia, this and that. Some are very expensive, some are cheap. Pistachios are cheap, almonds are cheap, relatively, I guess. Um, they got all the, Brazil nuts, walnuts, anything you want, they got with nuts. Dried fruit, massive amount. Fruits, more fruits than you know about here. A lot of the fruits, if you're in America and Europe, you've probably never seen before. Some are pretty good, some are not that good. You get a lot of good fruit. Um, Mangoes and papayas grow here. We grow them on our property. I happen to like those. Figs and dates are abundant. Olives. It's just people take teaspoons or tablespoons of olive oil. I'd rather just take 10 or 18, depending on the size of the olive, out of the jar and eat those because I'm getting the olive oil from the olive. I'd rather just do it that way. Getting pomegranates is becoming a problem. The pomegranates I bought, my wife said are rotten. They're overdone. They're too old. I have to open a few more and go through them with them and make sure they're all that way. So we bought some pomegranate juice, and then we looked up the Hebrew, and it's got sugar in it, apple juice in it. It's not really pomegranate juice. So I'm having an issue with the pomegranates right now. I gotta try to figure out how to get pomegranates. I'm not doing a great job of that. Pasta, any kind of pasta you could want, they got here. Angel hair, thick pasta, thin pasta, twisted pasta, bow-tied pasta, you got everything. Sauces for the pasta, yeah, they got pesto, they got tomato, they got whatever you want. It's all, anything you want, they got it, okay? Fresh garlic and cloves, all you want. All kinds of fruits. There's always lots of fruit running around here. The bananas are not that great. They're small. They're all right. Not, in America, the bananas are very, very tasty. Not so much here. But they're all right. Watermelon, hit or miss. Sometimes you get really good ones. Sometimes you don't. Cantaloupe, honeydew. Yeah, all you want. Again, sometimes it's better than others. Pineapple, rather expensive, but they have them. Oranges, they got all kinds of oranges here. Tomatoes, all kinds of tomatoes. Onions, all different kinds of onions, different colors, dry, not dry. All you want. Are the onions good? Oh, they're really good. The garlic's really good. Apples, they got more different kinds of apples than I can remember. It must be 6 or 8 different kinds of apples. They got Granny Smith, they got all different kinds. They're good. Depends what kind of apple you want. Pears, they got plenty of pears, 2 or 3 different kinds. Grapefruit, all you want. Loads of that stuff. Just swimming in. I'm not eating any more of the powdered soups here. I realize that they say 100% natural ingredients, and it seems to me they put natural garbage in there with it. It's not for me. Pistachio nuts here are really good. You get them without the shell, and they're really good. Um, the pickles can be good. I think I covered that. And what am I missing? If you want, real bad food desserts like cheesecake and things like that, they got a lot of these cakes, but they're not going to be the authentic stuff you're thinking of from Europe or America. They're going to be cheaper imitations at a pretty good price, not super expensive. And it's not healthy, but there's a lot of that. You're not going to get a good strawberry or cherry cheesecake here. You're going to get a superficial, junky one that's not real cheesecake, and I haven't seen real cheesecake. I suppose it exists, but I haven't seen it. Bagels, nah, the bagels here are a joke. They're bagel-like objects. They look like bagels, but they're not. Bialys, if you know what that is, nah, they don't have them. My wife makes them occasionally. You don't have them. Onion board, if you know what that is, never saw it in Israel. You get pumpernickel bread, yeah, that you can get. You get all kinds of breads. I mean, but most of them are not. I don't think you'll find satisfactory or good. Most of the breads are not air breads, but they do have air bread, like Wonder Bread or Silver Top, and that. Yeah, they have that. Mayonnaise, they got the same mayonnaise you got in America, the same ketchup, the same different mustards you got in America. They got all that. Salt, yeah, you can get the healthy sea salts. It's all over the place in Israel. Um, they got foreign mustards, with the grains and all different kinds of mustard. You can get it. They got organic ketchup. They got low sugar ketchup, different brands of ketchup. They got, oh, you get all the ketchup you want. You don't have to worry about it. Mayonnaise, same thing. Um, all different kinds of hot sauce. You got the liquid you put in a little bottle. You got powders. You got the real cayenne peppers. And all of that. You don't have a problem with it. Getting the really, really hot stuff, the stuff that I can't eat, like the scorpion kind, and that they sell it here, and I have it, but it's so hot. I'm sorry every time I eat it. But it's available. Some people enjoy that. Again, it's personal preference. You want to eat hot sauce, you don't want to eat hot sauce. It's your choice. You want to have mustard, you don't want to have mustard. Your choice. You want ketchup, no ketchup, your choice. You want to put ketchup on the pizza? Don't make fun of people for putting ketchup on the pizza when you see it. It's just their culture there. You don't have to do it, but the same with putting tuna on the pizza and putting it in the oven. It's going to smell if you're sitting near anybody. It's going to smell rancid, but don't make fun of them for eating that. That's their culture. You know, don't you don't want to make fun of them for that stuff. Do I ever see food here like salmon croquettes or tuna croquettes? No, no, I don't see. Do they sell soup here like you get in America in a can, like a good minestrone soup? Nah, they don't have any canned soup here. They sell the powders, and the powders stink, but they get a great profit margin on selling the powders. I think the powdered soup is garbage. I was even thinking of throwing it out. The stuff I already have, it's just bad for you. It says all natural ingredients, they put natural junk in it. I'll be right back. I got a worm out of here. Uh, I'll be right back, guys. thing I didn't cover with food is the chicken wings are dirt cheap in Israel. They're considered garbage food. The Israelis just don't like them. It's junky food. Some of the restaurants sell chicken wings. Not that many. Some do. And you can buy them extremely cheap. Cheaper than America. I mean, they're really cheap. And they're good. We do it frequently. It's a good cheap meal. And there's nothing wrong with them, you know. The Israelis like to eat a lot of hamburgers when they go out, and they're overpriced. And they get hamburgers made out of filet mignon meat and prime rib meat and stuff. Extremely expensive. And you can barely taste the difference. It's, you know, they're high on hamburgers. And they do like a lot of hamburger places, you know. Italian restaurants are rather rare. Spanish or Cuban or Mexican restaurants, close to non-existent. Barbecue, extremely rare. I know of one in Israel. It's very good. That's the only one I know of. Seafood, you got that. Limited selection because of the kosher, but what they do have is often quite good. Fish and chips, extremely rare. Hot dogs are considered junk food in Israel. They do have all beef hot dogs, and they're not cheap, but they're not expensive. A lot of the other hot dogs are basically chicken and turkey and garbage, and you know, not considered much. TV dinners, you don't see it in Israel. Frozen food, yeah. Frozen meat, frozen fish, frozen vegetables, frozen fruit. But you don't see a frozen TV dinner. Years ago you did. I used to buy Sara Lee, the cakes and stuff years about, we're talking decades ago. The supermarkets get rid of the imported food and they try to make cheap imitations in Israel and push them down the throats of the people here. They don't like importing food because it tastes so much better than the garbage they try to sell us. They don't like it. French fries, yeah, that's common. With food, to get French fries is common. Onion rings, common. They're readily found. Fried cauliflower, not that common, but it does pop up. It's breaded. It's pretty tasty. If you like that kind of thing, I do. Plantains, rare. Cuban food, never saw it. German food, never saw it. Irish or British food, never saw it. Peruvian food, it does pop up occasionally. Not common. It might be a dish at a Peruvian restaurant. Mexican food, never saw it. Jamaican food, never saw it. Indian food, they have it. Rare. I don't know how good it is. There's none around near me, so I don't have any idea. It's far from common. New York deli style food, like corned beef on club and pastrami on club and knishes and yeah. In Jerusalem, maybe Tel Aviv, you can get that. A couple other cities. It's pretty hard to find. Oh, there is a Spanish restaurant in Haifa we ate at years ago. It was good, but it's rare. You don't see that often. African food, never saw it. All right, let me look at the live stream, and we'll get back into prophecy. The land strip bacon is absolutely good. You cook it well, it gets crispy. It's really good. The beef is almost as good. Organic food is more costly here. Not super expensive. I was going to block somebody and I hit the wrong place. What did I hit? Let me see. That didn't work. Let me try it again. I don't know what I did. All right. So I think we're headed, as Elijah's going to be cut loose, the light's going to go green, and he's going to start teaching the Levites. Now that's going to mean there's going to be a large amount of signs and wonders taking place. Otherwise, why are they going to listen to him? You got the idea? So you'll have the whole gamut, raising the dead, the healings, the miracles, everything. More so than Yeshua did when he was on earth, because he said, greater works than these you shall do. Are you going to do more than that? It's not just teaching them how to lay the animal on the altar and kill it and all that. It's teaching them how to clean their lives up. Okay? So, they can't be hypocrites, they gotta walk according to the New and the Old Testament. That's the trick. And I'm sure Elijah's gonna have help, because he's also gonna teach the people too. How can the offerings be acceptable unto the Lord if you have a bunch of people that are running around cheating their employees, ripping off widows and orphans, and unequal weights and measures, and rigging court cases and suing people, and then they're going to go buy an offering animal and give it to the Levites to sacrifice to God? That's not going to be acceptable to the Lord. So you're cleaning up the Levites and the people, and I can give you some evidence of this too. We go to Zechariah 13 and verses 8 and 9. And it shall come to pass in all the land, saith Jehovah, 2 parts therein shall be cut off, that's 2/3, and die. But the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah is my God. And that takes us right back to Malachi sitting as a refiner and purifier of gold and silver with the Levites. Well, obviously he's doing the same thing with the people, or perhaps it's Apostle John doing that. Now, when we go back into Ezekiel 20, beginning at verse 30, where I was earlier, and we're in verse 34, let's say, and I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm, with fury poured out. So he takes them out of the countries he was scattered. Yet we know in Jeremiah 30, verse 11, he destroys those countries that they were scattered into, which I reckon is about 125 countries. All of Europe, a lot of the Middle East, everything in North, South, Central America, and parts of Asia and parts of Africa. It's a massive amount of places. Have they been scattered into Russia? Of course. How about America? Yeah. How about England? Yeah. I mean, every country in Europe. And they've been mistreated every place they went. I grew up in America as a Jew. Don't think we were treated well. We weren't. Nobody took our property away. We weren't beaten. Our houses weren't burned. But we got discriminated against a lot. Where does it say that the Jews are supposed to be picked on and discriminated against? It doesn't. And then in verse 35, then I will bring you into the wilderness of the people. And the word for wilderness is midbar. And Strong's puts it in English as like a pasture, driving to a pasture. Implied to be a desert. A wilderness. Is that in Israel? No, because it says it's the wilderness of the people. Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so I will plead with you, saith Jehovah. I don't know, Jehovah. So I don't believe it's going to be Egypt. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. I believe the passing under the rod. When the shepherd brings the sheep into the gate, he has a rod, and he looks at all the sheep to make sure they're not goats, they're not someone else's sheep, they're not a coyote or a wolf or whatever, right? Okay, and in the bond of the covenant, I think this is where we're going to see the tabernacle in the wilderness. I'm guessing at this. I don't know for sure. But I think that we're going to see this. The other theory is maybe we'll have the tabernacle first to get the offerings acceptable unto the Lord, and then the temple will come because we have the blessings of the Lord. But when you read that in Malachi 3, it doesn't lend itself to that. It lends itself to the temple is going to come down. And I will purge out from among you the rebels and those that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and we shall know, and you shall know that Ani Jehovah, I am Jehovah. As for so, it's going to be like the old days with Moses and Aaron. They're going to be dying in the wilderness. But I would say The days in the wilderness might here be something more like 40 days, not 40 years, but I don't know the time frame. As for you, O house of Israel, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, go you, serve you, every one his idols, and hereafter also, if you will not hearken unto me, but pollute you my holy name no more with your gifts and with your idols. So he's saying, go do what you want with your idols, but when the time comes, I'm going to whistle for you, and you watch, you're going to come. For in my holy mountain, in the mountain of the height of Israel, saith Adonai Jehovah, there shall all the house of Israel call by Israel, all house Israel, all of them in the land, all those that are in the land, serve me, there will I accept them, and there will I require your offerings and your first fruits, your oblations, with all your holy things. So look at that. Where does he accept you? In Israel. That's where he requires the offerings. So how could the Lord be dead? And the first fruits, how could the Lord be dead? You see? I will accept you with your sweet Savior when I bring you out from the people and gather you out of the countries wherein you have been scattered, and I will be sanctifying you before the heathen, the Goyim. And you shall know that I am Jehovah when I shall bring you into the land of Israel, into the country for the which I lifted up my hand to give it unto your fathers. And there shall you remember your ways and all your doings wherein you have been defiled. And you shall loathe yourselves in your own sight for all your evils that you have committed. Sounds like repentance to me. And you shall know that I am Jehovah when I have brought with you for my name's sake, not according to your wicked ways, nor according to your corrupt doings, O you house of Israel, saith Adonai Jehovah. So because of his name's sake, he's doing these things. Moreover, the word of Jehovah came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face towards the south, and drop thy words towards the south. Now, let's take a deeper look at this. The word for south is Taman. Now, that's what the Hebrew people, the Israelites today, call Yemen. And drop thy word towards the south, towards Taman. No, that's a different word. Darom. No, that means south. Okay, it's not Taman, it's another word for south. And prophesy against the forest of the south field, and say to the forest of the south field, hear the word of Jehovah, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, behold, I will kindle a fire in thee, and it shall devour every green tree in thee, and every dry tree. The flaming flames shall not be quenched, and all faces from the south to the north shall be burned therein, and all flesh shall see that Jehovah have kindled it, it shall not be quenched. So Jehovah is going to kindle this fire in Edom, I believe, which is Yemen. Then said I, Lord God, they say of me, doth he not speak in parables? So I believe that's another confirmation of the destruction of Yemen, he's going to kindle the fires. If anybody has any questions, just put it up in the chat. All right, let me get back on my notes. Let's talk about Trump and Greenland. What's going on with that? Greenland is north of America, kind of northeast, right? Okay. So that puts Greenland on an elevation, similar to Russia. It's on a line with Russia, where America is sort of south of it. And it also pushes it closer to Russia, especially if you take the eastern coast of Syria. You're way the heck closer to Russia and Europe. I think maybe as much as 1,800, 2,000 miles when you add in the north and the push towards the east, and maybe over 2,000 miles. So Trump wants this because he can put military bases there. Thus, our radar there. So if Russia's launching missiles to come towards America, we would have a substantially faster early warning because we're approximately 2,000 miles closer to Russia, depending on the path of the missiles. Now, if Russia's going to launch aircraft at us, it's the same advantage. If we're going to launch missiles at Russia, which is the more important of the two, the closeness gives a tremendous strategic area, advantage, a very big strategic advantage because it's much closer to Russia. So that's why he wants it. Do I think Trump's going to invade Greenland? No. I don't think they're going to sell Greenland to him. I don't think he's going to invade Greenland and take it. I think he's going to strike a deal with them for money or trade or something. And he's going to put military bases and radar and Navy bases over there. It gets him a lot closer to the Arctic. There's a tremendous amount of advantages for putting military in Greenland when you're up against Russia. Now, he's talking about settling things down with Ukraine and Russia. And I believe he'll try that because Ukraine's rather corrupt and they're just dumping money into Ukraine like money's going out of style. And he doesn't want to do that. So I don't know how well he'll do. It's going to depend on what Putin wants to do and what Zelensky wants to do. But I think what he wants to do is regroup and mess with Russia another day. I don't think he wants to take Russia on right now. So Greenland gives him a pretty good advantage. Okay? One that Putin would not be happy about. But I think you could forget an invasion. I think you'll see putting bases in there. They're spotting drone where the California wildfires are. As of about 8 hours ago, the wildfires burned 35,000 acres of land. And There was some arsonists they spotted, but the arsonists came out a couple of days, or 2, 3, 4 days, or whatever, after the fire started. And they were trying to add additional fires. I don't believe this thing was an arson attempt. It was very interesting that America and the UK coordinated their attack on Yemen with Israel. They hit first, then Israel came in. Facebook is, Zuckerberg is saying that Biden forced them to do censorship. His people were coming in and screaming at his employees, and different government agencies were dropping on Facebook, or Meta they call it, and all this stuff. So he started getting scared, but now he's talking. We got to see if we in fact did deactivate the Houthis in Yemen long term. I have a feeling we did, but let's wait. If we didn't, like I said, there'll be more attacks. I don't believe Zuckerberg about the censorship in Facebook, and Elon Musk talks tall tales about no censorship, but his censorship is rather heavy. It's not true. Now, Trump with Canada is a similar thing to Greenland. Russia could come into Canada easily, and Canada has no defenses to speak of. Their military is puny, and it's so. If Trump incorporated Canada into the United States, then he could move military bases around over there and build them and stuff. And that's where I think he's interested in Canada. Mexico, I think he stopped talking about. Panama, he might have to use the military to take it over there. They get $5 billion a year in revenue from the ships crossing the Panama Canal. Okay. Bear in mind that Trump really and truly looks like he's going to be sworn in on the 20th now. And the left-wing states may rebel against Trump, and you might see ruler versus ruler coming from the left, not the right. It seems that once Hamas realized that Trump is not going to jail Friday at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, they approached Israel and said, well, we can make some more concessions about the ceasefire. So this is what I see. There is a ceasefire with Lebanon, probably going to hold an extra month, or we're just going to occupy it and it's going to continue. Okay? Or we're going to go to full war with them, which they don't want. Gaza, as of after Trump's sentencing, all of a sudden, boom, now they want to do a ceasefire. Oh, let's see how real that is. Remember, I told you they would probably do it just before Trump getting sworn in as president. Iraq is doing nothing to Israel. They told us they're not attacking us. They're doing nothing. Syria said they're not attacking us. They're doing nothing. The Houthis, I think, have been deactivated. Saudi Arabia is not attacking us. Neither is Oman. Neither is UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Jordan, nor Egypt, nor Turkey. So I think we're in ceasefire mode, which means I think we're moving to the stage where Elijah's going to be training the Levites. The enemies are still left in Gaza. They're still left in Lebanon. Well, I think Yemen's going to be totaled. They're still left in Syria. They're still in Jordan. Okay? They're still in Iraq. So they can rise up against us and conduct a siege in Zechariah 12, which should be the countries, roughly speaking, with Psalm 83. Okay? The inner circle, they like to call it. And if we got the blessings of the law, then the Lord's going to use Elijah and Apostle John to burn up the enemies round about us, and that's the beginning of redemption. That's going to be accompanied with the sun going dark, the moon turning to blood. Yeshua's going to appear in the clouds. People are going to get everlasting life, and we're going to go then claim the land back. And then when we got this extra land, the great exodus is going to happen, and the people are going to come over here. But I think we need the land to house them. I don't know how many are going to come. All the 10 tribes are going to come. I don't know how many there are in there. Neither do you. We don't know. We don't know how many are going to come, but I think it's going to be a pretty big number. And the land from the Euphrates to the Nile, that's about 100 times bigger than the Israel we have today. So do I think that we're moving into the days of Elijah, as they say? These are the days of Elijah. It's a very unbiblical song. It's completely off the scriptures, but where Elijah's teaching the Levites. I can't guarantee it, but it's looking like it. Because the fighting is stopping, leaving the enemies in place to rise up again. So Elijah training the Levites with the temple, signs and wonders, miracles, they're eventually going to go crazy, the nations, and say, let's just go kill them. And that's when they get killed. Study Elijah's personality in the books of Kings. He is a hardhead. He's not shy. Remember when he was doing the offerings with Jezebel's priests, and he was mocking them for hours. Maybe your God's sleeping. Maybe he went away on a trip. Keep calling. And then they started piercing themselves to make the blood come out. And they never could get their God to burn up the offerings, because Jehovah wouldn't let it happen. The demons don't reign supreme. Jehovah does, along with Yeshua. So what did he, so then Elijah has all this, the animal and the wood, and he pours water on the animal, on the wood, in the trench, all over the place. Boom! Jehovah sends the fire down and accepts the offering that way. which would mean Elijah's a Kohanim. No, I think so. So, um, he was mocking them. And then what did he do after? He cut their heads off. It's a big job. He did like 150 head cuttings. Man, that's a lot of work. You think they just said, okay, Elijah will kneel down and pull our shirts down and you could just cut our heads off? Oh, he went in. Basically, I think he slaughtered them. He had everlasting life. He outran a chariot and stuff like that. He had it. I'm pretty sure. He'll have it again. So, everlasting life, you could die. He didn't die. He went up to heaven in a whirlwind. Apostle John's still here. He never died. And they're going to put a real serious whooping on these surrounding enemies. They're just going to get burned up. Millions of them, probably. Where do you think that fits into Bible great events? Pretty big time. Oh, the world will take notice. Now, when Elijah's working in Jerusalem, how many of you think you're not going to try your darndest to come over here and be with Elijah? How many, huh? You think Elijah's going to kick you away? Get the heck out of here, gringo. Of course he's not. He'll know you're a true believer and have the real gospel. He's going to be welcoming you. What are you talking about? He can't just work on the Levites at the altar. He's got to work on the people doing the sacrifices, providing them to the Levites to sacrifice. Or the offerings are going to be rotten. He's going to need some help, I think. He'll want some help. Oh, he'll be with his bro John, the Apostle John, but that's just two of them, and it's a lot of people to teach. And when you teach people, they have questions, and you know. He's going to probably spend a lot of time with the Levites, not only teaching them how to live their lives, how to correct the other people not living their lives correctly. Everlasting life didn't happen yet. They don't have the heart of flesh yet. They don't have the law in their inward parts in their heart. They're not there yet. That happens at right about Zechariah 12:10. That's where it's depicted when they see Yeshua. So the offerings making them acceptable appear to happen before, because in Malachi 4 we see the appearance of Yeshua, yet training the Levites is in Malachi 3. Could the spirit of Elijah cause rain in LA? Well, Elijah is who you should be directing. Yeah, it could. All right, somebody wants prayer. Let's pray for all the true believers in California, that, you know, God sheds mercy and grace on them with all these fires, for all the true believers in California. I'm not going to pray for the satanic movie stars and the politicians. That I'm not going to do. But I'll pray for the true believers. Somebody sent me a question. Let me read it. I'm reading this comment. Hold on. if I had Zelle or uh, Zenmo, no, I don't. I have GoFundMe. If you send me an email, if you want, I'll send you the GoFundMe link. I don't like to put it up, but I could give it to you. I don't think these places, Venmo and the other one, are going to send money to an Israeli bank. That's the problem. I hope I answered your question. Um, I tried to go into the chat um, several times um, during the live stream to look for questions, and so I don't know what I missed your question on. I'm looking at something you sent me. Is 100% grass-fed beef or dairy expensive there? It's hard to find. It exists, um, and it costs not tremendously more, a little bit more. There's a Black Angus that's grass-fed, sort of organic, that I bought from time to time. It's not bad. Is there New York Chinese food there? I wish. You don't know how bad I miss that. I grew up in the Bronx. I miss it. No, there's not. The Chinese food here doesn't taste anything like New York Chinese food, and I wish it did. Oh, do I wish it did. Like egg foo young, chow mein, chow fun, chop suey. Doesn't exist in Israel. They got junk Chinese food. Do they use the same food additive? Well, you can get it without the MSG and stuff like that if you want. You know, they don't do the MSG too much. It's a sweet. They put sauces on it and make it sweet. They load it up with carbs. That's what the Israelites like here. But it's nothing. I don't know. It's to call it Chinese food as I know Chinese food is wrong. They should call it Chinese like food. It's not Chinese food. No, I don't care for it too much. Let me see what other questions there were. Good Vietnamese or Korean food there in Israel. Never came across it. It might exist. I never came across it. I love Vietnamese food. Never came across it. How often do I get out to a big city like Tel Aviv, Haifa, Jerusalem? I'm kind of old and I'm pretty much homebound most of the time. I don't get out too much anymore. I used to go a lot. I don't go that much anymore. We get into Tiberias and another place called Semic, but we have a pretty good property. It's got front yards, backyards, gardens that are producing organic food. We got an aviary for the birds. We got the dogs. And I get up early in the morning and I work about, by the time I get ready for the broadcast and do the broadcast, it's usually about 7 hours. And that usually wipes me out for the rest of the day. I'm old, obviously, and I don't have that much stamina and endurance. So I just kind of hang around. And we sort of gave up on most of the restaurants in Israel because they're rather expensive these days. And the quality of the food is rather not worth the money at all. So we prefer to just cook in house. We get healthier food and better food. I'm checking all your questions. Make sure I got them all. I don't know what's affordable. It varies. I don't know what If you buy your meats non-kosher, it's usually cheaper. Like it's some foods are cheaper here than America. Some foods are more. Some are the same. It just depends, really. For me to drive to the big cities like Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, it's 2.5 hours minimum each way normally. Parking in Tel Aviv is near impossible and it's unbelievably expensive. You could spend in a few hours, you might spend $20, $30 just for your parking lot, if you could even get into a paid parking lot. So it's not enjoyable, and Jerusalem is pretty bad unto itself. We, my wife goes to Haifa frequently, which is a rather substantial city, and we live very, very close to Tel Aviv, to Tiberias, which is 40,000 people. So you can get, I mean, it's loaded with restaurants. Are any of them really that good? Some are better than others. That's all. And then when they're a large shopping district, and then when they're a place called Semek, which is where the Jordan meets the Sea of Galilee, basically in that, within a quarter mile of that, I guess. And that's probably where Apostle John was baptizing, but nobody's baptizing down there today. And they got several good restaurants there, and I get a lot of supermarket food delivered to the house. They do that in Israel. So we deal with it a lot that way. That's about it. The food in Jerusalem is definitely better than it is in the rest of Israel and Tel Aviv too. Um, I'm up in the north, and the people here don't have great desires for food that I find attractive. They like to eat Arab food mostly, which there's a place for. And skewered meat put on a metal rod with tomato and onion, and a lot of it would be beef or chicken, and cooked on the bricks, the barbecue bricks. They love that. I could eat it, but I don't desire it that much. What else do they like? Hamburgers, falafel. My wife went out to Haifa yesterday and brought me back a falafel. It was pretty tasty. I had a good time with it. I don't eat it every day. It's chickpea balls deep fried in oil, and you put it inside the pita bread, and then you can put things in with it like fried eggplant, salad, French fried potatoes. This is Israel. It's different. Pickles. They got about 10 or 15 different things you can put in it. And it's a tradition in Israel. It's very, very popular. They like pizza. In my neck of the woods, they like shawarma, which is formed meat made out of, I think, turkey and chicken. And it's not bad. It's formed, it's not natural. They put it on a big slab, vertical, spinning slowly in a spit, which has like rotisserie electrode things cooking it and keeping it warm. And then they slice meat off and they put it inside the pita bread. It's rather expensive compared to falafel, and it's okay. I don't eat it that much, and I might eat the falafel sooner. Pizza, they like ice cream. They have meat restaurants where they have an Argentinian beef place, which is kosher, so it's limited in taste because the rabbis have them wash the meat and then put a lot of salt on it and keep the salt on it for quite a while and then wash it off and then resalt it and then wash it off. It makes the meat tough and kills the flavor. Really. It's a cruel trick on the Israelis. I don't like it. And the Argentine beef place is a cut above. It's not that expensive. There's some Arab restaurants that aren't kosher that are right on the edge of the Sea of Galilee. Literally, you could sit right at the water's edge. And they got a lot of fish and different things. And it's pretty okay. Not that expensive and pretty good. And beautiful scenery. You're right at the water's edge. The birds are flying around, you know. It's nice. So you can get some pretty decent restaurants going on in Tiberias. I don't know every restaurant. There must be at least 100. I'm thinking what else I know about there. Well, there is a Pizza Hut. I know that. McDonald's is there by the bus station. I know there's one Chinese restaurant that's just horrible. The food is so bland, it has no flavor. I don't know how they managed to make that. I wouldn't eat there. There's some sushi places that are good. Usually, if I'm in there, I'll usually grab a falafel if I want to eat on the fly, or if I want to sit down and get serious, go to the Argentinian beef restaurant and eat there, which we haven't done in ages. But the price of restaurants in the last year and a half or so has really gone up. And, you know, we stopped during COVID, we stopped eating in the restaurants because they were, you know, wanting a certification that you were vaxxed and we were not vaxxed. Then you could eat outside. So we stopped it back in the COVID days. And then when the war started, we stopped going to the restaurants. So we haven't really spent much time in the restaurants. What we do for food is we'll get a delivery if we want to do that. We'll get burgers or Chinese or sushi. That's normally what we'll do. There are Arab restaurants within a couple of minutes of us, and they're rather good. But because of the war, I wouldn't suggest going there now. But they are very good. Very good. They start out, they give you little bowls, maybe 15 or 18 little bowls of different salads. They make you a very thin, hard bread that they bake right in the oven and give you right then and there. I don't know what to call it, but it's not bread as we know it because it's very, very thin, but it's delicious. And they give you all you want. And then you got all kinds of meat and fish dishes you could have for a main course. And they got, oh, it's really good. They got all kinds of different food there. And there's two that I know of very close to me. And I've been in both of them. And they're both very good. But because of the war, I wouldn't suggest going in there. And we got a local pizza guy that delivers. And he's very, very good. For pizza, it's excellent. And we got some so-so restaurants around, and on the Sea of Galilee, there's an excellent fish restaurant that basically has what they call St. Peter's fish, which is caught in the Sea of Galilee. It's tilapia. They call it St. Peter's fish. You know, it's quite good. It has a lot of bones, so I like to buy a fillet of it. So I don't get the bones, but my wife doesn't care, and she gets it and pulls the bones out. It's really good. You sit right on the water's edge. It's very nice. There's a guy that runs a non-kosher steakhouse, and he has his own farm. He has about 6 or 8 restaurants, and his meat is very, very good. It doesn't have the salt and the water process because it's not kosher, it's beef, and it's extremely good. And it's on the expensive side, so we don't really go there very much. Um, there's an excellent barbecue place in the Golan Heights. It's about 40 minutes each way for us. And driving through the Golan Heights is rather boring. There's nothing there. Now, if you've never been in the Golan Heights, you'll be fascinated with it, I'm sure. But after you've been living here decades, it's a boring ride. But its food is exceptional. And it's the only guy I know of in Israel that makes real authentic New York style bagels. Now, there was a guy doing it also in the Golan Heights, but he went out of business, I think, with the COVID. I think he folded. Not 100%, but I think he folded. His bagels were good. Most of the bagels here just look like bagels. They're not bagels. They don't taste like it. You can get the Jewish cooking, the kugel, the kneidlach, the blintzes, all that stuff in Jerusalem with the ultra-Orthodox, or Tel Aviv with the ultra-Orthodox. The problem is they don't want you in their restaurants unless you dress like them. So to do it, I would probably have to put on a kippah and tzitzit and go in and act the part. And I wouldn't be ultra-Orthodox, but with the kippah and the tzitzit, they'd probably put up with me. I'd start talking Yiddish to them. I don't have fluency in Yiddish, but I could drop comments all day in Yiddish, and they would like that. But I don't get in there that much. It's a long drive for us, and the gas is expensive. We pay over $8 a gallon. So not only do you have to pay exorbitant prices for parking like you would in Manhattan, you got to burn expensive gas up, and we just don't do it. And we're old, and my wife's recovering, as most of you know, from something like a stroke, and so we don't do it. That's what happens when you get old. You get to hang out more. So you could always send me emails for questions, and I'll try to answer them. And I do check the live stream, the chat for questions several times, and I got to go in there and clean up nasty people that come in and make snide remarks. I just block them. Let's see. I'm as old as Israel. How's that? Does that help you? All right. I think that's what I got for today. So I would say at this point we continue watching avidly and get ready for Elijah, because I feel pretty strongly that's coming. The fires. I'm beginning to think more and more this is the beginning of the prophecy, I will kindle fires in and about your cities, in Jeremiah 50:51. I'm beginning to lean more and more towards that, but we still have to be careful and we have to watch. This one is continuing to grow. More and more of these little rich movie star type filled cities down there are catching fire. I don't know the latest acre count, but it's probably high. Now, we have seen a lot of fires like this in California in previous years, but look at the end times timing on this, and look at all the other events, specifically the attacks on Israel calming down while leaving the bad guys in place in these countries, right? And then line that up with the fires in California, and you get an unusual set of circumstances here. And I don't like believing in coincidence. Can you dig it? Okay, so I'm Moshe. Please pray for me and my wife Rivka. Pray for our peace, safety, protection, and joy and healing. Pray for our finances. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues, that they be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray I make better videos. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I hope you got something out of this. And you might want to subscribe because I'm in the habit of doing all of a sudden live streams if things happen that are pretty dramatic. And you might want to subscribe. And if you care enough, you could hit the like button. And that's it, guys. I'm out. Thank you. I thought I'm out. Let's try again.